I would say he doesn't last through the Independence Day weekend here.
Do you think that Joe Biden is about to drop out of the presidential race?
So I do. When predicting that he was never going to be the nominee for the better part of 2 years, I think this is it. I think we saw post-debate, I think the real turning point, the inflection point was when the media left him, and that was immediately after the debate. You saw it in NBC News, people pushing back Kristen Welker, then you saw CNN, Van Jones, and others, David Axelrod. When you lose the media in America, you've lost the game, because the media in America has been pretty much the frontline warriors for the Joe Biden is fine to participate in 2024 presidential elections. They've been the force that's kept him in. Once he lost the media, immediately I was on with Megyn Kelly that evening and said that's it. He's done, because he can't go forward. When you lose the media, then you lose the donors. He's lost the support of the party as of today as well. So it's just a matter of time whether he announces it today, tonight, or soon. As we speak, he's having lunch with Kamala Harris. Allegedly, he was speaking to some of his top aides earlier in the day. I think he's finally come to the realization, and finally Jill, his wife, who's been a driving force behind keeping him in the race, have realized the time has come for them to throw the towel in. So I would say he doesn't last through the Independence Day weekend here.
Who do you think will replace him as the candidate?
No, that was a very good question. The odds-on favorite seems to be Kamala Harris, but I think that's a very dangerous choice, because she's very unpopular here. She's about as unpopular as Joe Biden is here right now. I've said I believe Michelle Obama ultimately will be the choice right now. As of this today, she even said it. You have to have your soul in this to run for elected office in America, and my soul isn't in it. But that doesn't mean come August in the Democrat convention that she doesn't change her mind. Her soul could possibly get back into it quickly. She would be the toughest for President Trump to defeat, because Gavin Newsom, a lot of people think it would be Gavin Newsom. He's beatable. He's very beatable. His record is horrendous. Kamala Harris is very unpopular. It comes down to Michelle Obama. Does she want? I've thought about this. I think the way the Democrats will push this would be Michelle is the top of the ticket, and she'll put Barack Obama as the vice presidential pick, and that becomes exactly what they all want. So that would be a tough, formidable foe, so to speak, for Trump.
It sounds like House of Cards or something. What do you think will be the outcome of the election in November if Michelle Obama did run?
I would say anyone but Michelle Obama. Trump is a slam dunk winner, rivaling the former biggest win in the history of conservatives when Ronald Reagan beat Walter Mondale. He got 49 states. It would get close to that. If it was anyone except Michelle Obama, boy, it's impossible to predict what would happen if it was Michelle Obama. The Obamas are extremely popular here in America, and that would definitely get out a lot of the vote that may be on the sidelines right now, who frankly didn't want to see either Trump nor Biden as president. A 78-year-old and an 81-year-old are not very popular pick choices between a lot of young people in America.
Interestingly, the Democrats have seemed to be tearing themselves apart since this debate, but Trump has remained fairly silent. Why do you think that is?
Because he's winning. He was winning going into the debate on the most important swing states, the 7 swing states that decided American elections. He was ahead on all 7 of those states. He went into the debate. He played it perfectly. He let, Joe Biden prove to the world that he was incapable of spending 90 minutes on a debate stage, let alone the next 4.5 years as the president of, the most powerful economy and military on the planet. People realized, so Trump let him do it. His debate preppers were smart and allowed him to look reserved and cogent and together, while Biden fumbled around throwing insults and dropping lines. Whereas Biden's debate prep, all he really needed to do was show the American public that he was all there, that he was cognitively equipped to run for president, and that within the first 2 or 3 minutes of the debate, people realized he wasn't, and they failed. They failed miserably. If they were trying to prep him with statistics and ideas and policy, they made the mistake of misreading what the American public was most concerned about, which was what his cognitive abilities. And post-debate, I think the number came out that 72% of Democrats thought he wasn't prepared for a 2024 run, let alone the presidency.
Now, you're pretty close with Trump. What do you think he's thinking right now during this campaign?
Well, if you go to his Truth Social account, he'll pretty much tell you exactly what he's thinking. He put out a meme today, a cartoon of President Trump joyfully whistling, singing as he strolled past all the people who were naysayers, Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, all these people who said that he was never going to be president the first time. And again, it's just this kind of funny cartoon, but it's a very kind of a look inside what he's thinking, in that he's very confident right now. He feels very, very good about it. And he should be. And he should be, because it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats to change. It's always difficult to change, and it's difficult to change their choice, so to speak, because he hasn't been nominated, Joe. Neither one have been technically nominated yet, but it's been clear, obvious that it was Biden-Trump. It's very difficult to make this change this late in the game. And I'm guessing the inside Trump world, and I haven't spoken to them today. I speak to them a lot. But I think they're extremely confident on the outcome of 2024 as we speak, and should be.
Do you think that he's learned from his mistakes in 2020 and maybe even from 2016, where he kind of created a lot of noise, perhaps at the wrong moments?
So I think 2016, he was the right candidate at the right time. I think in 2020, he took it for granted. He thought it was a re-election slam dunk layup. Again, Donald Trump is he's a brilliant guy, but he's also very narcissistic. I mean, let's just be honest, he is. And the thought of him losing as an incumbent president never crossed his mind. He didn't see the effect of COVID. He didn't see the effect of this anti-Trump campaign that the Democrats put on. And he didn't see the effect of the mail-in voting, which changed for the 2020 election cycle. Specifically, didn't see the amount of votes that would come in that way, and they really did. They swamped him. But I think I know Laura Trump very, very, very much, very closely. She is the RNC chairman, and she has vowed to have over 100,000 Americans, conservative Americans, obviously pro-Trump Americans, in voting places around the country, which would make it very difficult to cheat, so to speak. Now, I haven't ever said that the election was stolen or given to Biden nefariously. I think every election has a lot of slippage, so to speak. But I think that Biden won. I don't think that's going to be the same case. That the outcome is going to be the same this time around. I think people now have seen Trump. They've seen Biden. They know what they got. There's not going to be a massive late push for mail-in votes. And so I think, barring Michelle Obama and Barack Obama on the ticket, I think you're going to see Trump win it fairly handily. So did he learn his lesson? I'm not sure what lessons he learns other than don't take it for granted when you have a lead. And I think he did learn that lesson, in fact, yeah.
In terms of changes, again, in Donald Trump, what kind of a president do you think he would be in 2025 compared to his first term?
It's an interesting question. Like, a lot of people ask me, because I know him so well, do you think he's going to look to maybe set it up so that, this vice president pick can set it up so that the next 12 years, not just the next 4 years, are MAGA or Trump related? And I don't think he is. I think he's going to go ahead and do what he needs to do to win in 2024. And the guy's going to come out of the gate, a thoroughbred racehorse, and just do exactly what he said he wants to do. Close the border, clean up the crime, deport illegals, and really sink his teeth into this idea of lawfare. And the American judicial system is kind of on its knees right now. People are looking from the outside saying, what do you mean you can just change charges, come up with charges that would normally not be tried in the court of law, applying to Trump in New York, in Georgia, federally? As the Supreme Court is getting involved, there's all these other courts are realizing it was it was nasty tactics, and they got caught. I think Trump, that's one of the first things he's going to do, is go ahead and clean up our judicial system, which clearly needs a lot of cleaning up.
His sentencing has been delayed until, I think, September. Do you think that that will have an impact on the election? I know that's just before the election date.
Huge impact, because it's still before the election. I think it's September 6th, so it'll be 60 days prior to the election. It will be massive if they sentence Trump to jail. You're going to have, especially if he's the leader and whoever they replace Biden with, or even if Joe's still there, it will create huge support for Donald Trump. The Democrats don't realize it. They applied all these, legal gymnastics to try and get Trump behind bars, thinking that would be the slam dunk win for Democrats, and it's had the opposite effect. So all these lawsuits have made him more popular, with people saying that wasn't fair, it wasn't right. I don't like Trump, but it still wasn't right. Put him in jail now, he may win all 50 states. It may be that dramatic.
In the UK, we've got an election tomorrow, 4th of July. Nigel Farage is doing very well. What do you think about that election result? And what do you think? How do you think that impacts US-UK relations?
So I think it's bigger than just U.S. and UK. I think there's a anti-globalist populist wave that started with Trump in 2016. It kind of took a breather in 2020 when Joe won, when no one was really sure. But around the world, look at France. Look at Argentina. The anti-globalist / pro-populist movement is alive and real. And for me, Nigel represents that for the UK. But also, over here, Nigel is seen as one of the, the founding fathers of that movement. Trump is obviously he's the quarterback, and Trump is set the standard for it. But Nigel has been so supportive in that realm. I think Nigel's going to win. I think Nigel's going to do very well. I think Nigel politics, so to speak, will continue to flourish throughout Europe and maybe further. Nigel is a force to be reckoned with in that realm, and frankly, it's the right realm to be in right now. Voting people, citizens, are tired of politicians wanting more power and less success with that power. I mean, look at Gavin Newsom, for example. The people say he wants to be president, might be president, or wants to run against Trump. The guy is horrendous scoreboard on his policies. Homelessness is worse than it's ever been in California. Crime is worse than it's ever been in California. And here's a guy who went from mayor of one of the biggest cities in California to governor of the state, and somehow he's the most popular Democrat. Yeah, right now it's crazy. It's not working, and people around the world are realizing. And the good news is, I think Nigel is at the forefront, tip of the spear, so to speak, in Europe, as Trump is here in the United States.
One of those other populists is Steve Bannon, and he's currently sitting in prison. Do you think the political consequences of that will impact the Democrats if the Republicans win in November?
Again, as with Trump, they misread the fallout of trying to apply lawfare against Trump. The same will happen with Steve Bannon. Bannon was going away for 4 months, and he's going to come out even more popular than when he went in. Americans love the underdog. Americans love the people who they perceive to be treated unfairly, with bias. And a lot of people think that Bannon went to jail. Peter Navarro went to jail for some of the same offenses that people like Eric Holder from the Obama administration did. A contempt of Congress. He had the same charge against him. Never even processed. He was never even fully charged in that respect, and others. So if a Democrat does it, the perception is, right or wrong, is that if a Democrat does it while a Democrat is in office as the president, it's okay, look the other way. But if a Republican or a conservative does it with a Democrat in office, you could very well likely end up in jail. The same offenses. And then Trump was in front of a judge, Merchant, in New York, for some of the things, for things far, far less egregious than what goes on in that godforsaken city. And people see it. So when someone is unfairly charged and jailed in this respect with Bannon and Navarro, they become very, very popular people on the backside of that. Bannon will be a bigger voice once he gets out, as will Peter Navarro.
Now, if Biden really does step down as the candidate in the next few days, how do you assess his presidency in the last few years?
His presidency has been a failure for the last 3.5 years. This whole idea that he steps on the debate stage and asks for 4 more years to do, what he wants to do, when his scorecard says you failed and you're losing miserably on the border. We have, anywhere between 7 and 17 million illegals in this country who are frankly living better than some of our ex-military people are. They're being afforded housing and food and some of the things that even our military are struggling with. It's not perceived well. Our crime is off the charts across the board. Inflation, I don't care what they tell you, it's never gone down. It's gone. It skyrocketed at the 1.5 year mark of Biden's presidency. It regulated at the higher rate. It's never gone down. People are still struggling with the basic necessities of food and rent and such and transportation. It's been a miserable failure. I had a show where I would constantly bring on pro-Biden people and say, name one accomplishment. They struggle. They talk about how he wants to unite the country. Well, he didn't. He called MAGA people insurrectionists and dangerous and anti-democracies. He never did that. Joe Biden wanted to relieve student debt in America. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. He went around the Supreme Court and gave away billions upon billions of dollars of student debt relief. Now think about that for 1 second. The way that works is taxpayer money. All taxpayers, whether you went to college or not, you have to pay taxes in America. Those tax dollars from 50% of the people who didn't even go to college are paying off the debts of people who a lot of times were very wealthy people, but just accumulated college debt. They're paying off that debt. And it was so unpopular by people who weren't the elites getting this payoff. But he went around the Supreme Court. He had his out. He had his way of saying, I tried to work for you, but I couldn't. The Supreme Court said no. He had that, and yet he still went around the Supreme Court and did it. These are things that it's clear to me that the Biden advisors have been horrendously wrong reading the American public.